As humans, we were meant to explore. This world wasn't given to us so we can sit at a 9 to 5 all day and not see the natural wonders that Earth has. From backpacking, to camping, to traveling and more, there are so many parts of this world that we need to explore with so little time. So why not do it together?
Yo, what's up? It's your boy Bryson. This is a super overdue video. It took me forever to edit this. I'm recording this on November 1st. I did this trip literally back Labor Day weekend, so around September 1st, so literally 2 months. I've just been so focused on my gaming channel that I've just kind of neglected my adventure channel, and it's dumb of me, but this hike, one of the coolest backpacking trips I've ever done. 26 miles. We technically did it over 3 days, but you'll understand why I'm saying 2 days. It's called Slate Lake. It's kind of out by Silverthorne area, near where all the skiing resorts are, Breckenridge, Copper, all those guys. The trip started out, I picked up my buddy. He flew in from Minnesota, from Minneapolis. I picked him up from the airport, and then two of my other buddies were already driving to the mountains, and we literally just headed towards the trailhead. It was already like 4 p.m. when I picked him up, so we didn't, and because of traffic, because it was Labor Day weekend, we didn't get to the trailhead till like 9 p.m. So we got a late start. It was dark. That being said, we only really hiked about a mile to a mile and a half. Now, it was pretty much straight uphill. It was pitch black. Wasn't a huge fan of setting up camp in the middle of the darkness where you had no idea what your surroundings were. But damn, waking up that next morning and not having any idea what the views were going to be like, and then waking up to views like this was immaculate. One of my buddies, he only came for the first mile because he had to make a drive back home to Illinois that Saturday. So he just wanted to hang out with everybody just for the first part of the trip, which, you know what? I commend him for it, because I would never have done that. Now, this first part of the hike was definitely a little bit more difficult than the rest. There was at one point later on where people were like, oh, this next part coming up is pretty hard. But I honestly thought the beginning was the hardest part. One of my friends, he wasn't really acclimated to the elevation yet, so I mean, for me and my other friend that were, it was still a pain in the ass, so I can't even imagine how it was for him. But it was just straight up a few miles. The views were cool if you looked behind us, but nothing crazy. But then once you got to the part where it kind of leveled out and you're kind of on flat ground, we went through an area, and it was kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, we're not seeing anything absolutely gorgeous yet. We didn't really know what we were getting into. I mean, this is a 26-mile trek, 13 miles to the lake and 13 miles back. And we didn't really even know what the lake looked like. We just quickly found something off of all trails and just went for it. And then we got to this area that was just straight downhill. It was just like 5 switchbacks all the way down, and we just knew that coming back it was going to be brutal. Now for Calvin, who's literally right here behind me, this was his haven. Like, going down these and coming back up, I swear that dude did at least 50 miles the entire trip, from how much he'd run forward, then run back, then run forward. I mean, he was in heaven where we were at right here. But now we got down the switchbacks, and honestly, I was just filming everything with my iPhone 14. That's why it gets a little stuttery at times. I'm not a huge fan of the way the exposure and lighting always adjusts on this, and sometimes it looks kind of weird. That's why one of my investments is going to be a GoPro for this kind of stuff. But then we got to the bottom, and you kind of round this corner, and there's this field, this small field, and we're like, oh, let's take a second and sit here and just like eat lunch or something. Set up, and all of a sudden you just move around to a tree and you see this massive open valley, and there's like you can see like these jagged mountain peaks way out in the background, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. The sun was coming out. It had been a little gray in the morning. The sun was coming out. Calvin was loving it. He was just chilling there, letting the breeze hit him. Had some food. Then we had to walk a little bit. Now this was the tough part because there was a bridge that had been destroyed. Don't know when. Probably could have found it on All Trails. People warning us about it, but we didn't really check. But we had to wade through a pretty big stream. So we all took our boots off and went barefoot through it. Well, I went barefoot. The other guys were smart enough to bring like sandals. I didn't even think about doing anything like that. And it's funny too because like this was my second backpacking trip. This was their first. And I had kind of thought ahead of time of like, what can I not bring? You know, keep it as light as possible. Because that's what I was worried about with them is, you know, the first time I went with my other buddy who was only there for us for the first night, we overpacked like crazy. It was hell. So then this, I was like, okay, how can I at least take 10 pounds off of my pack? So thinking of things like sandals to wear in the water was just totally out of my mind. And I totally wish I had thought about it. So we had to wait a little bit to let the sun kind of dry up my feet. We met some other people. They told us about the spot. It was pretty cool. It was his son and his dad. And they just go around the area, and they weren't even going to the lake. They were just going to a stream and just going to do some fly fishing for the day. But no, the next part of the hike wasn't too brutal. It was pretty flat. And you're just walking through a massive valley of, there's just a field around you. And you can see the peaks off in the distance, and you're walking to the peaks, and you can see where it starts to elevate. And people warned us, but you just knew that's where that lake was. So we got to the part where the elevation, and let it be known that this entire hike was up 5,000 feet of elevation. I'm not sure how much we did in the original part. I had forgotten my Apple Watch, so I wasn't able to tell. But we did a decent amount already, but then you could see that there was still a hefty amount of elevation to get up. So we hiked up to that part, got up to where the elevation kind of started, and there was a stream. We stopped, got some water, we're chilling for a second. Calvin was loving it still. I mean, he was acting like he was not tired at all, which is crazy how dogs have that type of energy. I wish I had that type of energy. No amount of coffee could put me in a state like a dog can if they're just living their life. The elevation was tough here. We had to make a few stops. I remember at one point my buddy, his pack was pretty heavy. He had like it was definitely over 60 liters and he packed it pretty full. And at one point he was telling us, he was like, guys, I cannot even lift my arms up. So at one point I was worried. I was like, are we gonna make it like the whole way, or are we gonna have to stop early? I was way more optimistic. I'd say things like, guys, it's just right over here. The lake has to be right over this bend. And they were like, it's not for another few miles, I bet. And I kept thinking that. And I remember when I finally come around this corner and you could just see the lake, and I looked back at my friends, and it was just kind of like a salute moment where I'm like, boys, we made it. And dude, this lake, Slate Lake, was absolutely gorgeous. It was a massive lake just surrounded by these trees. You have the peaks right above it. And there's another lake too. You could go to an upper Slate Lake, which was like another 2 miles up, and I heard that was brutal. A lot of people would set up their camp at the main Slate Lake and then go hike up. We didn't have the time for that just because my buddy was only in town for a few days. We had to head back the next day. But no, we chilled. We got there around 5. It did pour. There was like torrential downpour for a second, and then remember that, buddy? The crazy rain. We had to hide in the tent for a little bit. Then that went away. The sun came back out. We just chilled, felt the breeze. Absolutely beautiful. Made some food. Got a great night's sleep. Woke up the next day and knew that we had to do it all over again heading back. It was an awesome trip. I highly recommend it. Backpacking season's pretty much over for me. I am now in ski season, which will be getting a ton of ski vlogs out. But next summer, I plan to do a ton of car camping, ton of backpacking, ton of exploring, and we're gonna really up the hell out of this channel with it. So I'm excited for it, and I'm excited for you guys to witness it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please hit that like and subscribe button so I can keep making videos like this. Peace out, guys.